welcome to tonight's primary forum hosted by the Christian County Republican Party and the Christian County Young Republicans. My name is Matt McGowan. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the city for allowing us to use the council chambers tonight, for Mr. Darrell for assisting with our setup for tonight's event, and for Thomas for guiding us through this program. In this segment, we will have the Republican primary candidates for Magistrate District 6. Our format will be simple. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Once each candidate is finished with their introduction, we will begin a series of questions. Each candidate will have up to 3 minutes to answer each question. 30-second rebuttals will be granted upon the request of a candidate once each candidate has been given an opportunity to answer the original question. After our questions, each candidate will be given an additional 2 minutes for closing statements. And with that, we'll move to our opening statements, and Mr. Peterson, you are up first.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Republican Party for organizing the debate and helping to keep our citizens involved with what's going on. I'm Philip Peterson, and I'm running for Magistrate of District 6. I've served 6 years on the E911 Advisory Board, and I'm a commissioned Kentucky Colonel. With my 19 years experience owning a security business and 28 years of being a volunteer fireman, and my family's involvement in agriculture for many years, these together give me a unique view of the needs of District 6. I believe in lower taxes and smaller government. In my first term, property taxes dropped 1/10 of a cent. I also voted against the nickel tax resolution that was brought before fiscal court. I work hard to help small businesses grow. I work to protect the farmers and landowners' rights, and I will work for public safety and support our first responders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mr. McKnight, your opening statement, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, and thank the Republican Party for putting on this. This is a first, and this is greatly appreciated. I'm James McKnight. I'm a 31-year resident of Oak Grove. I'm former military, retired Postal Service. So I'm intimately familiar with the Fort Campbell area and the challenges we have with getting people to stay into this area. Come to this area to make a left-hand turn at Gate 4 and to retain them in this area, which would in turn increase our tax base, which is what we all need. We all understand we have to increase our tax base to keep our taxes low. I'm also an honorary member of Kentucky Colonels. I've been on Oak Grove City Council for 9.5 years. I'm proud of my record down there. I didn't shy away from the tough issues nor the hard votes. That cost me dearly in some cases, but I did what I felt was best for the city, and I continue to do so if elected to this position on the fiscal court. With that, I'd like to say thank you again, and it's in everybody's interest to increase this tax base. We all know that. We are growing in the right direction. We're moving in the right direction now. We're just about there, but we still need a little bit of help with our tax base.
Thank you, Mr. McKnight. With that, we'll move on to our first question. And Mr. McKnight, the question will come to you first. James Franklin Clark is quoted, "A politician thinks of the next election. A statesman thinks of the next generation. How would you approach potentially unpopular decisions which you believe to be in the best interest of our county?"
Thank you for that question. Yes, I don't believe in so much what's going on right now. My interest is to get people to want to make this a destination and want to stay here. Where I'm at, my location, the people I speak with, I get every excuse, I get all of the excuses why they don't want to stay here, why we're not competitive with our neighbors to the south. I'd like to correct some of that. I'd love to be a part of some of that. Southwest, the Economic Development Commission is doing a marvelous job with that right now. It took us a while to get there. I'd like to continue on that path.
Thank you, Mr. McKnight. And Mr. Peterson, the same question to you. James Franklin Clark is quoted, "A politician thinks of the next election. A statesman thinks of the next generation. How would you approach potentially unpopular decisions which you believe to be in the best interest of the county?"
Well, I first believe as an elected official, it's not what I believe, it's what the constituents believe. I believe that we need to represent the people that put us in office. I think that with their input and major discussion on whatever issue it might be, to to come up with a decision that's best for the county and best for the citizens and the young people that we want to keep here. So I really think it all boils down to what the people that you're representing, what they want for that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. We'll move on to our second question, and Mr. Peterson, this will come to you first. What qualities do you possess that would enhance the effectiveness of the fiscal court?
I think I have a vague, all-around approach to it with my small business that I've had for about 18 years. With a budget and having to stay in that budget brings the money side to fiscal court as to how to keep that money that we get dedicated to the right spots without having to raise it. I mean, in small business, if the money's not there, then we have to make cuts or we don't get it. And I think that's the way that fiscal court should operate. Then 28 years on a volunteer fire department, I see it from the public safety side. And, you know, with fiscal court, we're over the jail, we're over the sheriff's department, have some say-so on the EMS side of it out of the county with the volunteer fire department. So I see their needs and how they operate in a day-to-day basis. So I think all that comes together, gives me a unique view on how county government, the issues they're having and how we need to deal with them.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. And Mr. McKnight, the same question to you. What qualities do you possess that would enhance the effectiveness of the fiscal court?
I believe that I have the people's interest at mind. That I don't want to do anything to put added burden on the folks that are paying the bills right now. I understand we've got inflation right now is getting ready to get out of control. It's a real problem. I'm afraid it's going to get a little worse. I hope we can avoid a recession. I think we have some tough times ahead, and I don't want to put any more burden on the people that are already paying the bills now. We're going to have to put some programs on hold probably, and possibly have to make some tough cuts. But we have to keep in mind public safety is always going to have to be first, and public health and welfare.
Thank you, Mr. McKnight. We'll move on to our next question, and it's on the subject of roads. How will you work with the city and the state to ensure that we have quality roads? Mr. McKnight, this will come to you first.
I would like to work with the state and continue to lobby with them. I think right now Frankfurt understands what we need down here as a region. I'm not so sure that affects the rest of the state, particularly the big three. They've got their own issues, they've got their own interest. We have a unique situation down here because of our situation close to our neighbors down there, which are a major competitor. They're luring away our people. Right now, they're moving and they're on fire with the development that's going on in Nashville and Tennessee. That is a major competitor to what we're trying to do here to maintain our own people, to keep our young people here, and to avoid the brain drain that we've had. We can send our kids off to school, but unless we have something to lure them back to this area, you know, these young people are not dumb. They understand. They've got futures. They want to care for their families as well. We've got to make it more appealing, more alluring to them for them to come back and want to come back to their communities, and then further the next generation.
Thank you, Mr. McKnight. Mr. Peterson, the same question to you on the subject of roads. How will you work with the city and state to ensure that we have quality roads?
I think, first off, I mean, with the state on infrastructure, I think that we need to work with them, number one, to share with them our problems in Christian County. I know we've done that with Kentucky Highway 115 in Pembroke. By getting with them, explaining to them why we need it, what we need it for, and just the state that it was in. And with that, you know, with us lobbying the state, doing all that, we had 115 resurfaced and even got a turning lane going into Pembroke Elementary School. So I think it's very important that we keep our state officials in the loop of what we need in Christian County. I'm lucky enough that I know our representatives and we can talk on a day-to-day basis if we need to, and I think they listen to what we say. But it's definitely our job as local officials representing our constituents to express our needs to the state so that they can work on their end to get back down and get them straightened out.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. We'll move on to our last question. And Mr. Peterson, this will come to you first. From the perspective of an undecided voter, what distinguishes you from your opponent?
I believe, number one is my experience and my voting record. I mean, if you look at how I voted, some of the stuff that I've advocated for, you will see that I am a constituent-oriented elected official, that any decision I make or anything that comes before us in fiscal court, we try to get that information out to everybody, get their feedback, and that's how I base most of my decision on anything that we do in fiscal court, is what the constituents want, and I feel like that they need to trust me, and if I earn that trust, then they will elect me, and with that, I'll use my morals and what I think needs to be done right through their input.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. And Mr. McKnight, the same question to you. From the perspective of an undecided voter, what distinguishes you from your opponent?
I think the biggest thing I would say is I'm probably a little stingy when it comes to the taxes. As you know, Oak Grove hadn't raised their taxes down there in about 12 years. And I was part of holding the accountants to the feet to the fire. I went through all of those budgets year after year. I looked for trends. I looked for any sort of malfeasance. I kept understanding where we had to go and our priorities. I ensured that our public safety, our police department never wanted for anything, because we have to have those folks. They had to have a top-notch police department. It was within our interest, and it always is, and it would be at the county as well, to maintain good people, because they're hard to train, they're hard to keep. We've got competitors that will take them. So we've got to take care of those people. I understand that. We kept those taxes down there lower than they probably should have been for a while, living off of probably proceeds from the sale of that water company. We did that for as long as we could until we had to actually come to grips with that we've got with inflation and everything else. We finally had to raise some taxes down there. That was the right thing to do, but I fought those taxes tooth and nail, and made it hard on them to raise taxes down there.
Thank you, Mr. McKnight. And with that, we'll move on. Yes, rebuttal.
I'd just like to say that in my term, we have not raised any taxes, and property taxes have gone down 0.1% since I've been there.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. And with that, we'll move on to our closing statements. Mr. McKnight, you'll be up first.
Again, I'd like to thank the Republican Party for this debate. This is a first. I hope this is one of many to come. This is great for the folks to see. Put people on the record, as I am tonight, that I will promise to be very frugal with your taxes and look very hard at any tax increases that come down the pike.
Thank you, Mr. McKnight. Mr. Peterson, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. I believe when choosing a candidate, you can look at what they want to do, or you can look at what they've done. I said I would listen to my voters. When there was an issue that affected District 6, I stood up and I strongly voiced the voters' opinions to all involved. I said that I'd be transparent, and within 2 months of my election, my 11-year-old daughter, with my cell phone, started the first Facebook Live broadcast of fiscal court. I said that I would work to get Highway 115, which was in horrible condition at the time, resurfaced. I advocated to our state officials, and now Highway 115 is resurfaced with a turning lane at Pembroke Elementary. I promised to work for countywide internet. In my first term, we entered into a partnership with Pennyroyal Electric and HES to provide countywide high-speed internet to every home in Christian County, and is on track to be completed by late 2023 or 2024. I said I'd work for our first responders. I voted for money to provide the Sheriff's Office with state-of-the-art body cameras. I also worked with the Budget Committee to increase the funding for our volunteer fire departments to help pay their vehicle insurance. Last but not least, I said I'd serve my community. On December 10th, when the tornadoes came through, I was with the community, working to do everything we could to help those who were hurting. In my next term, I'll work hard to obtain monies for tornado sirens and shelters to be built in District 6 and all of Christian County. I'm Philip Peterson, asking for your vote for Magistrate, District 6, May 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson, and thank you, Mr. McKnight, for participating tonight, and that concludes our forum for District 6. Please stay tuned for our forum for Magistrate District 7, and don't forget to exercise your constitutional right to vote on May 17th. Thank you.